Hello, welcome to this video on how to land at Metalaneng, one of our more challenging airstrips in Lesotho. Let's have a quick look at the plate brief here. So it's Metalaneng, which is a class 3 runway, which is the most difficult. This runway is situated right here in between this valley, and it runs kind of into the mountain at 90 degrees. So the pattern is flown right in between, and final approach is right 90 degrees in the valley. So it makes it a little difficult with an abort just after turn and final. As we fly into the valley, we cross over the runway from this kind of a direction, fly right overhead, and then turn in between the ridges here onto final approach, and then land uphill on the runway. There's a committed point or an abort point just there after turn and final approach. The abort is a right-hand turn flying out of the valley that direction. We normally have a wind coming from this kind of direction, so it's usually a quarter-inch tailwind, which makes the approach even more difficult and a little bit wind limited for that landing because of that tailwind. As you can see, it's quite a slope. We've got 1800 foot and a 6% upslope for the landing. Gravel and grass with the abort point again there on the profile view as we turn final. Runway 17 abort just after turn and final approach. No land in runway 35. There's too much downslope and not anywhere ready to approach. And a maximum of 7 knots tailwind is allowed for the landing. So let's take a look from the cockpit for a takeoff and a landing, doing a checkout at this airport with another pilot. I'm in the right-hand seat. Chad Diamond, one of our pilots, is in the left. Be sure to stick around after this to see what this looks like on Flight Simulator if you want to fly it at home.
So I demonstrated the first landing, and now we're getting set here and ready for the first takeoff. So this takeoff is really fun. We've got a 6% downhill slope with a hard left-hand turn because of the terrain after departure. We want to actually increase that turn a little more, so we'll leave 20 degrees of flaps and do quite a hard left-hand turn. So here we go. Abort point here is the second tree, and we are continuing. As we're airborne, let's do that, start with that left-hand turn. And keep it in tight, keep going, and then you'll see there on the left, those fields to the left. Once that's in range, we can clean up the flaps, get our best rate of climb. Normally we'd just depart out of the valley, but for now, for the practice today, we're going to climb, get some good altitude towards the lower end terrain there, get back up to 1,000 foot above airfield elevation, and once we reach that, we'll turn back and head back towards the airstrip. So now we positioned and headed back towards the airstrip. As we fly along, if we want to position ourselves, kind of flying across the top threshold, that'll position it so that you can see everything nicely out of your window. As you look down, take a look at both windsocks, take a look at the walking paths, make sure there's no pedestrians planning to cross in the next couple of minutes. make sure the runway itself is clear, and try and get a sense of the wind. This morning the wind is nice and calm. That suits our checkout nicely. Should not be too much of an issue. Very often have that tailwind, but today, maybe later in the day, we'll see that pick up to a couple knots. But for now, looks good. Continue to fly, head for that ridge straight ahead of us there. As we continue on kind of a crosswind, we're going to start the descent. As we reach this road and this ridge here, we're going to start a nice descent and turn onto kind of a downwind. So this downwind feels a little weird because we're sort of kind of a short downwind and we're descending quite significantly to get ourselves set up correctly. Keep running through our checks. As we get into base, we want to be maybe a step ahead and finish up with our final approach checks on the base leg. Aiming for that field over there, reaching our key point, and turn in, keep it quite nice and close to the terrain on the right here. Continuing with the checks, getting everything stable as you can, stable approach as early as possible, finishing up the approach checks. Now we're looking for that little house on final approach there on the ridge to the right. As we approach that, get our speed set to our V-approach speed. And start your turn. Onto final approach, check ground speed, check approach stable, and let's make a decision. We are committed. Focus on the runway, keep that nose pointed down towards the threshold there, and as we get close over the threshold, power back, deep, a little bit of a more deep flare with the slope, and a nice touchdown. Alright, that was good. So quite a lot happens there in the last part of the approach. Looking at the terrain, looking at your key points, altitude, checking the runway, checking approach stable. Remember, we want to also get that stable call, probably somewhere on the base leg there. So once you check your V-app is set, rate of descent is checked, runway is clear, then we can give the stabilized call. And then just after turn and final, everything is still looking good, runway is clear, then we call committed. Okay, that was great. So let's do a couple more of those. We need at least 4. Make sure that you're comfortable, and hopefully we'll have a little bit of wind pickup. And once we've done all that, I think you'll be good.
Alright, so I'm going to take a moment to show you what this looks like on Flight Sim. This is Microsoft Flight Sim 2020 on the Xbox. So go to the world map. This is not labeled correctly, so what you want to look for is this runway called FX2020. Now that's not named correctly on Microsoft here, but this is where you want to be. I can quickly kind of show you where it is. If you look at Lesotho, you have Maseru, Roma, Matakane airstrip is highlighted, and then you want to zoom in kind of into this valley over here. But you might have a better job finding it just by searching for that. I've selected the Turbo 182, that's the closest thing I can get on the Xbox to the 206, so that's what I'll be using. And you want to position yourself on runway 36 as your departure. Okay, I've got the flight conditions just set to something basic, and then we can hit fly. So what I'll be showing you is a takeoff. I'm going to use the external view just so it's a little easier to see the orientation of where you are. Do the takeoff, climb out in the valley, and then back around for the landing. I'm not going to focus much at all on procedures. All I want to try and show you here is the positioning of where you want to be flying this procedure. So not going to be doing checks or anything like that. I'll be using flaps, but just kind of doing my best job with the external view on flight sim to show you. So as you open up, you'll see that you are, I'll just quickly show you the inside cockpit view, positioned on top of the runway. Now from this position the runway doesn't look great, but when we're flying and overhead it looks a lot better and you're able to see it better. So there's the clinic to the right, which is pretty accurate, and this terrain is very accurate based on what we've seen on the GoPros. So let's go ahead with the takeoff. I'm going to apply full power here, hold the brakes, just let this, I'm actually going to use 20 degrees or 2 stages of flat 20 degrees. Release the parking brake, try and follow this runway best as I can, waiting for my speed to come alive. Speed's alive, and I'm going to rotate just about here and leaving the flaps, starting a hard left-hand turn. Okay, maintaining about 60 to 70 knots. Keep turning until we see this terrain on our left here. Straighten out, that's our off landing field straight ahead of me here, and start to clean up the flaps. Those cars are not accurate, but everything else is pretty good so far. And we're going to be climbing out in this valley and then turning around. I will need to restart my screen capture here shortly, so there will be a small pause or change, and then I'll continue. So we're on this head-in, climbing up to 8,200 foot, turning around, and we'll pause it here shortly just to restart the capture, maybe once I've rolled out level. So we're turning until we can see the runway. Keep going, and there is the runway. Okay. Okay, we're back here. There's the runway ahead of me, just above my left wing now. You can see it there. Okay, so I want to put 20 degrees of flaps again, try and get my speed around 80 knots, 8,200 foot. Looking at the runway to my left here, you can see the clinic, you can see the runway 90 degrees to what I'm flying. So we fly over the top threshold. Alright, and then start our descent here. Again, this is not going to be super accurate because I'm more focused on just pointing out to you the terrain and where you're going to be flying. This head-in is good, aiming for that, straight ahead of me there's like a ridge that kind of starts to come down to the left. I'm going to aim for that, exactly what I'm doing now. I'm going to slow down here, I'm going to just come back on the power, start to descend. See this road to the left here that does kind of a sharp turn? We're going to be turning just about over that road and over the turn. Sort out my speed here. And we're going to want to descend to about 7,600 or so as we reach these fields that are to my 11 o'clock now. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and put full flap here and then fly nice and tight against this terrain here to the right. We can see the clinic to my left. We expect the runway to be at about 90 degrees to us. Flying as tight as we can against this ridge here. You can see my shadow there to show you how close we are. 60 knots is good. Aiming for this house straight ahead of me, that's quite accurate to what we saw on the GoPro. 60 knots will be good. Let's give it a bit more power here. Looking at the runway to my left. Past this house. Wait a little bit more, and my speed is getting bad here. And then start to turn around about here. Ignore my speed, that's terrible there. Start to line up, and we're going to call committed around about here. For this simulation I'm committed, I'll do my best to land here. Speed is good, lined up here. There's a car crossing which is not accurate. And then there's the start of the runway, there's the walking path, 100 foot marker, and touching down. Alright. And this is about the halfway mark, and stopped. Alright, so that's what it looks like on flight sim. You can give it a go and try and be a bit more accurate.